Hey, what's going on, crew? Today we're talking about diabetes burnout, progress, and my key to consistency with healthy habits and really just managing this thing on a day-to-day basis, even with no finish line in sight. So without further ado, I want to get into our theme song and I want to share a quick story with you guys. All right, so let's get into it.
I've spent the last 10 years pushing the limits while identifying trends and patterns in my type 1 diabetes management. Follow along as I learn, apply, and share the fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle strategies that I've learned from diabetes experts around the world. The real question is, how can we live fearlessly with diabetes while maintaining stable blood sugars? This podcast is here to give you the answer. My name is Matt Vandevecht, head coach and co-founder of FTF Warrior, and welcome to Pardon My Pancreas.
All right, as you can tell, we are still not moved into our house. We've been following along for a while. Just a lot of chaos recently, but saying yes to opportunities. And it's been amazing, but just a lot between my wife and I and our baby, of course. And she mentioned something to me that kind of stuck out. And she mentioned that I was probably the most consistent person that she's ever known in her entire life. And one of the reasons that she brought that up, of course, was that I mentioned to her, kind of went for a high five, and I was like, hey, check it out, I finished these 2 books. And she's like, that's awesome. And I was like, oh yeah, it's just I read like 5 minutes a day for the last year. And the reason I know it was a year is they were yearly books. You know, it was meant for 1 page or 1 or 2 pages every day, and they were scheduled out to be a year. And she was like, wow, that's incredible that you actually read something every single day. You never missed it. Or if you did miss it, you caught up, right? If it was like a day you had to skip. I was like, huh. Like, that is kind of interesting how that can apply to multiple areas of life. It's not just reading that book, but to me it was important to finish that book, right? But it was also diabetes care. She's like, I love that you take care of yourself with your diabetes. I don't have to worry about the what ifs of blood sugars. I don't have to worry about, is Matt going to end up in the hospital, or is he going to stop taking care of himself, or is he going to die early? Like, I could die from other things, of course, but she's appreciative of the effort that goes into diabetes care because it requires that we be consistent, right? And so I showed her kind of my reading schedule, and those books are part of it, obviously, but I want to share with you guys just because it's fun. These are the 4 books that every day over the last year I have spent part of my morning reading. And because I know you understand diabetes as I do, it's actually what I do while I wait for my breakfast pre-bolus to hit. So I take my insulin early for breakfast, and while I'm waiting for that insulin, I actually go through these 4 books every single morning. So these are the 4. The first one is the Bible. So if you didn't know, I'm a Christian. If you can't handle that, you're closed-minded, so you can leave, who cares? But I read the Bible every day, and I figured if I believe this stuff, then I should read the whole thing. So I'm actually working my way through it, but I'm breaking it up into bite-sized chunks because these books are a lot to read in a single day, right? So every day I read a chapter. The second book is a daily devotional, and it's going through the Psalms. So it's another look into the Bible, if you will, but it breaks it down and explains everything. So I like having that extra explanation. This third book is not directly related to Christianity, but rather practices that a lot of different religions and perspectives take on life, which is Stoicism, right? It looks at how can we be our best selves without feeling the emotional drag of the world. How can you level up without sacrificing things, or how can you sacrifice productively, right? So this is called The Daily Stoic. It's by Ryan Holiday, fantastic author. And this 4th one is called 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class by Steve Seibold. And this one is more mindset focused on how can I be more disciplined? How can I accomplish my goals at a faster rate? So each of these 4 books, I spend about 10 to 20 minutes every morning while I'm pre-bolusing, right? And I go through them. And these 2 in the middle are the ones that I finished a couple days ago. And they are the daily chapter pages, whatever you want to call it. So, my wife mentioned, oh, you're so consistent. That's so cool. And I was like, you know what? This applies to a lot of different pieces of life. It's not just reading. And for me, it's a vastly different place that I'm at now in life where I enjoy reading. I used to hate reading with a passion. And then I realized that reading is one of the fastest ways to make progression in any area of your life. So I actually dove into a lot of diabetes books back in the day and did a lot of research there. And if you can't get direct access to the experts, like let's say hire a coach or a mentor or a teacher, reading their books is the next best thing. in most cases, right? If you can't get access to them directly, their books are what they have chosen to put in paper to document. They've determined that's the important stuff. They want to put in a book. So if you can get someone's book, it's oftentimes a great way to gain introduction into their world, into their expertise. And so I love reading books for that purpose, to gain the expertise of a lot of different people. Now today I want to chat with you about how to avoid burnout. And I realize there's a connection between consistency and burnout, and it's not what you might think. I realize that within burnout, it usually comes from a lack of progress when expectations are not being met, right? So if you are trying your absolute hardest with diabetes and you're making zero progress, the same issues consistently arise. You go low every time you exercise. You spike every time you eat your breakfast, right, or your meals. That can lead to burnout because of the frustration we feel when the expectation of success is not met as we're trying to accomplish it because of all the effort that we're putting in. And of course, this is one side of burnout. There are many different sides, different types, different levels of burnout within diabetes. But when we aren't making that consistent progress, and especially when expectations are not met, it can lead into burnout. So one of the things that I have determined in how to avoid burnout for myself is to remain consistent with my foundational pieces of diabetes management. So life being chaotic recently, I look at what can I keep consistent? What can I build into my routine so that I don't forget and my blood sugars cooperate well enough to not be frustrating or holding me back. And so, as you look at diabetes management, of course, we know consistency will always lead to consistency. If you do the same thing, eat the same thing, live the same thing every single day, you're probably going to have more consistent blood sugars than if you had a different day every single day. Monday you traveled, Tuesday you slept all day, Wednesday you went to work construction, whatever it looks like. The more consistent your lifestyle, the easier it gets, right? But what are the consistent pieces of diabetes management that you can chunk it down to make it easier? If you looked at these, for example, these 4 books, and told me you have to read these 4 books today, say, whoa, I can't read that fast. It's like thousands and thousands of pages. It's not going to happen, right? But if I can break that up into 10 to 20 minutes of reading per day, I just accomplished most of that reading in a year, right? Yes, it took longer, but I was able to accomplish it without burning out, without being stressed about it. Just a quick couple of pages every morning. And before I knew it, I've completed these large tasks. So with diabetes, it's not about this giant, massive problem. How do I fix my blood sugars? You're not going to get very far if you ask that question to yourself. But if you can ask yourself, how do I chunk this down into bite-sized pieces? Oh, drink more water. That can help blood sugars. Oh, get better sleep. That can help blood sugars. Oh, taking my insulin, counting my carbs, pre-bolusing for some of my meals, because not all meals are the same, right? That can help my blood sugars. Well, now it becomes realistic and you're less likely to experience burnout because it's less likely to overwhelm you, but also you're more likely to make progress. Making progress as we expect it helps us to avoid burnout and continue to make progress because you build on momentum. If you listen to last week's episode, Ready is a Lie, we talk about how you build momentum in your life and ultimately achieve success in different areas of your life, right? So if avoiding burnout is your only goal here, you might benefit from breaking things down into smaller bite-sized pieces because you can make more progress. Though if you are experiencing burnout, obviously seek help. I myself went to see a therapist years ago when I was experiencing burnout, and that was extremely beneficial. But if you're trying to do something on your own and you're at a place where you can mentally handle the task of diabetes, I would advise breaking it down. What can you do today? What are some quick little wins that you can incorporate into your routine? Is it finally counting your carbs? Is it going for a walk every morning? What does this look like? And what can you consistently build into that routine that becomes part of your foundational diabetes management that you can carry day to day and enable you to have better control, which, as it turns out, also helps you avoid burnout. See, when my blood sugars are cooperating, which they do most of the time, and I do this every week, I started doing it recently, so I'll do it again. Here's this last week's clarity report. My blood sugars are doing pretty solid. They're still in the 90 percentages for the week, for the month, for the year. But if my blood sugars, I look back on them years ago when they were not doing that well, I felt burnout a lot more often. It's stressful when your blood sugars don't cooperate, right? It is frustrating as heck because you don't know what to expect. You don't know what plans diabetes may or may not get in the way of. As your blood sugars cooperate more often, you get to feel a sense of that breath of peace, right? The peace of mind that comes along with knowing what to expect with your blood sugars. It enables you to plan and keep plans, right? But also to enjoy life again. So there's a lot of different aspects, a lot of different takeaways from this episode that I want you to have. But the number one takeaway is if you can be consistent with your journey towards your goals, you're more likely to achieve it, but it also feels a lot less stressful, like a lot less effort. Now, that consistency for some people is going to look different. For myself, I did not like documenting for a long time until I realized the power behind it, right? And I realized that if I wrote my blood sugars down every single day, that patterns would emerge. And those patterns enabled me to make well-informed decisions and adjustments ultimately. So if you can find those patterns, make those adjustments, it can lead you into experiencing that progress as expected, which would push you further away from burnout and closer towards this place of freedom and flexibility where your blood sugars are kinder to you and enable you to live that quote unquote normal life, right? Where it feels like type 1 diabetes is less of a burden. And that's what I want for you. So find a way to make some progress, build consistency into your routine. Don't try to overwhelm yourself with 10, 20, 30 different tasks every day. Just pick 5, 10, 15 minutes and add something simple into your life with diabetes that's gonna help you make some progress and push you closer to your goals, okay? By the way, if you did not know about the whole journal aspect, how I used to hate it and then I figured out it was important, I actually put all of those tips, tricks, and graphs into an actual type 1 diabetes health journal that helps you to document your blood sugars, find those patterns. It really brings it out and makes it super obvious with exercise, with diet, with mindset, with the blood sugars themselves and how much insulin you're taking. All of that is in a book and ready for you. And if you didn't know, you can actually grab a copy and have it sent to your doorstep. If you go to trendinghealthjournal.com. Trending, of course, gets its name from what we're looking for, the trends and patterns of our blood sugars to make those adjustments and get you closer to your goals. All right, so head over there real quick, just grab one, trendinghealthjournal.com. And we've actually got some really, really exciting stuff coming out in the next couple of weeks. And everybody who does grab their Trending Health Journal from this episode, like if you go over there right now and grab your journal, not only am I going to be doing free shipping for everybody, but I'm also going to be including a little note that's going to give you special instructions on how to get early access to something that we've been working on for the last year and a half. You do not want to miss this. So go grab your journal, use the journal itself, please. It will help you to get closer to those better blood sugars, identify patterns and trends that will enable you to make more informed decisions with your diabetes management, smooth out those blood sugars on your CGM graph, right? But in addition to that, free shipping and a special note from me that's going to get you early access to something really cool. I wouldn't miss this one. All right, so what can you do today? Build more consistency in your diabetes management. Don't overwhelm yourself. Find something that you can just chunk into a small section of your day. Make sure it's bite-sized, right? No need to take the giant bite on the first round. Bite-sized consistency will help you get to your results faster and avoid the burnout along the way. And of course, if you can get these books in your hand, these are all great books. I can vouch for them personally as I'm going through them. But in addition to that, if there's something you want to learn, reading is one of the best ways you can do it. It takes time, of course, but next best thing is to find the author and hire them to walk you through their processes. But if you can't do that, grabbing their book is the next best step to doing that. All right, so hope this was helpful for you. If you have not yet, do hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you in next week's episode. Go grab your journal, trendinghealthjournal.com. I'll see you next time. Keep up the fight.